spearheaded by America, launched a crippling bombarding attack on Yugoslavia in an attempt to stop ethnic cleansing in Kosovo and dismantle the regime of the Serbian dictator Slobodan Milosevic. In addition to bombing military targets, factories, major roadways, and bridges, the NATO force also targeted Serbian media, especially radio and television broadcasting. Why did a military force consider television and radio stations as military targets for the first time in history? The answer can be found deep in Serbian history. Centuries ago, means of communication that are taken for granted today did not exist. Then, communication was the oral tradition of passing down epic poetry, describing heroic battles and scenes of great sacrifice. Similar to the media today, these means of communication maintained culture, language, religion, and a sense of national pride. However, leaders have also exploited communication to come to power, awakening nationalistic passion and stirring patriotic jingoism at the expense of many innocent lives. Serbia is located in the Balkan Peninsula in southeastern Europe. It is north of Greece and west of Bulgaria. During the Ottoman expansion into the Balkans in the 14th century, the Serbian Empire was at its peak. To stop Turkish armies from taking over this empire, the Serbs, under Tsar Lazar, met the Turks at one final major battle at Kosovo Polje. In this historic event, the outnumbered Serbs were finally defeated, despite a heroic resistance. Even today, Serbian people take pride in that resistance. Throughout Serbian history, the Serbian people are constantly finding themselves in similar positions as Tsar Lazar, always facing a much stronger and larger foe. After the defeat at Kosovo Polje, the Serbian people lived through 500 years of Ottoman rule. However, through communication of epic poetry, they were able to maintain their language, customs, culture, and religion. In the early 19th century, Karađorđe and later Miloš Obrenović led the Serbs in an uprising against the Turks. The Serbian leaders used the communication of epic poetry depicting the Battle of Kosovo and scenes of great sacrifice to unite the Serbian resistance. This was a success. Serbia not only became an independent state, but also experienced a revival of national identity and territorial aspirations. After the Balkan Wars in the early 20th century, the Serbian kingdom reclaimed Kosovo, the cradle of Serbian identity. This new territorial gain created a new sense of nationalism that was significant in the events that unfolded. The Austrian Archduke Francis Ferdinand and his wife were visiting Sarajevo, capital of Bosnia, an occupied province in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old Bosnian Serb nationalist, shot the Archduke and his wife while they were touring the city. This event was momentous, giving a reason for the angry Austro-Hungarian Empire to communicate a humiliating ultimatum to Serbia. World War I had begun. Serbia found itself in the same position as Tsar Lazar facing the advancing Turks. The choice was to fight and die or accept Austrian rule. The Serbs, like Lazar, chose to fight. After numerous Austro-Hungarian invasions, the Serbian army fled to Greece. In 1917, together with the Allies, they returned and expelled the occupying forces from Serbia. In all, more than 300,000 Serbian soldiers were killed, almost half of the mobilized forces. Despite these heavy losses, the victory of the Serbian soldiers led to the creation of Yugoslavia, including all of the South Slavs in one state. In 1941, 2 years after the outbreak of World War II, the advancing Axis powers swept through Yugoslavia, and the South Slavs fell under fascist rule. Once again, Serbs and other Yugoslavs chose to fight against the Germans instead of giving up. The Yugoslav partisans, led by Tito, fought against the fascists and won. Communication among the partisans through song boosted the morale of the troops and glorified Tito as the new leader of Yugoslavia. Tito remained in power from the end of World War II until his death in 1980. During his time, he was successful in keeping all of the ethnic groups of Yugoslavia together. Considered a dictator by the Western democracies, he had complete control over the media and used it skillfully to communicate his dominance over the country without favoring any one ethnic group. After Tito's death in 1980, ethnic tensions in Yugoslavia were growing fierce. Now that he was dead, there was no reason for the different peoples of Yugoslavia to live in the same country. Kosovo was, and still is, one of the worst examples of ethnic struggles in Yugoslavia. The Serbs wanted to keep the historic territory, and the Albanians wanted an independent Kosovo. The Kosovo Serbs felt threatened. A new Serbian leader, Slobodan Milosevic, took the opportunity to gain power in Serbia by exploiting the situation in Kosovo. At a protest at Kosovo Polje on April 24, 1987, Slobodan Milosevic went to hear the pleas of the Kosovo Serbs. In the speech he gave that day, he said the historic line to the Kosovo Serbs, "Nobody will beat you again." The Serbian state television repeated footage from this event endlessly, and Milosevic's popularity skyrocketed. On the 600th anniversary of the Battle of Kosovo, Milosevic gathered 1 million people to rally for him.
A kada govorimo o nepravdi I pravdi, onda treba da se zna, najveća nepravda je nasilje I rat. Volim ja vas.
Although Milosevic promised to keep Yugoslavia together, he only threw oil on the fire of ethnic tensions in the country.
While Milosevic was president, truth was elusive. As wars in Croatia, Bosnia, and Kosovo created refugees and filled mass graves, media mastery sustained the dictator.
Eventually, because of allegations of ethnic cleansing and war crimes against Milosevic, NATO began a bombing campaign against his regime, including his propaganda machine.
Our media correspondent Terrence Smith has the TV Target story.
Another night of NATO bombing in Yugoslavia, another strike against Serbian television and radio facilities. RTS, Serbia's radio and television network, has been knocked off the air by Allied aircraft repeatedly over the last 2 weeks. NATO's rationale for the attacks is that the stations are what it calls principal instruments of the Milosevic war machine, and therefore fair game. Spokesman Jamie Shea justified the strikes.
RTS is not media. It's full of government employees who are paid to produce propaganda and lies. To call it media is totally misleading. And therefore, we see that as a military target. It is the same thing as a military propaganda machine integrated into the armed forces. We would never target legitimate free media.
Finally, Milosevic withdrew his troops from Kosovo, but did not admit defeat. Although the country's infrastructure was in ruins and the economy was in shambles, the Milosevic media tried to turn this into a victory again. Presidential elections were scheduled for September 27, 2000, and Milosevic felt his media would ensure his victory. However, this time, the Serbian democratic opposition finally learned how to communicate their message as well.
Godina pokušavam da skinem ovu fleku. Verujte mi, sve sam probala. Menjala sam programe, mašine, deterđente I... Sada se pojavila nova mašina. Ona ima odličan program koji pouzdano, sigurno I nepovratno skida ovu I slične mrlje. Vidite, deluje. Probajte I uverite se sami.
Demonstracija novog programa glasačke mašine 24. septembra širom zemlje. Konačno, gotov je.
On October 5, 2000, the Serbian people went against Milosevic in a massive demonstration across Serbia. During the revolution, RTS, Serbia's radio and television network, which was named TV Bastille by the people, was raided by the protesters. Slobodan Milosevic's nationalistic and media-based empire had finally collapsed.
These were not people driven by a revolutionary agenda. Time and again they told us they just wanted a normal life, to live in a country without shame and isolation.
I think that all is about a normal and a new life in our country.